The 1980s in America wasn't just a decade, it was a cultural phenomenon. It was the era of neon lights, shoulder pads, cassette tapes, and Saturday morning cartoons. There was no social media, no smartphones, and no binge-watching entire TV seasons in one sitting. Life moved at a slower pace, but somehow it felt bigger, louder, and brighter. Families gathered around a single TV set in the living room. Kids played outside with their friends until the streetlights came on. Parents knew all the neighbors, and communities felt more connected. You couldn't just Google something or order food from an app, you had to figure it out, and that made life feel more hands-on. Pop culture was everywhere. Music shaped how you dressed and who you hung out with. Movies were events that you had to see on the big screen. Fashion was bold, colorful, and unapologetic. There was a sense of optimism and creativity that defined the entire decade. In this video, we're looking back at 10 unforgettable things we miss from the 80s in the USA, things that made life feel full of connection and excitement. Some of these things are gone forever, while others have changed so much they're barely recognizable. But one thing is certain, the memories of this decade will always live on. Imagine it's Friday night in 1988. You and your family or friends pile into the car and head to the video rental store. The biggest name, Blockbuster Video. The yellow and blue sign glowed like a beacon. Inside, the smell of popcorn and the sight of endless rows of VHS tapes filled you with excitement. This wasn't just about picking a movie, it was a whole experience. You'd browse the aisles for nearly an hour, reading the backs of movie boxes and debating which title was the one. If you wanted the latest release, you had to get there early. If the shelf was empty, you desperately checked the return bin and hoped someone had just brought it back. Finally, you'd make your choice and maybe grab some candy or microwave popcorn at the counter. Then you'd go home, dim the lights, and press play. But the experience didn't end there. You had to remember to rewind the tape and return it on time, or you'd be hit with late fees. Streaming today is convenient, but it will never match the excitement of walking through Blockbuster's aisles, discovering new movies, and turning a regular Friday night into something special. If you were a kid in the 80s, Saturday mornings were sacred. You'd wake up as early as possible, grab a big bowl of sugary cereal, and claim the best spot on the couch. There was no DVR or YouTube. If you missed an episode, you missed it. That's why everyone tuned in at the same time to watch shows like He-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, The Smurfs, Garfield and Friends, and G.I. Joe. Cartoons weren't just entertainment, they were a shared cultural experience. On Monday mornings at school, you and your friends would talk about the latest adventures and argue about who the best characters were. Commercial breaks were even fun, filled with catchy jingles and ads for toys you'd add to your Christmas list. Today's kids can watch whatever they want, whenever they want, but they'll never know the joy of waking up early, cereal in hand, and knowing that millions of kids around the country were watching the exact same thing. In the 1980s, the shopping mall wasn't just a place to buy things, it was the center of teenage life. Teens would spend entire afternoons at the mall, walking in groups, browsing stores like The Gap, Spencer's, and Sam Goody. The food court was the ultimate hangout spot, with the smell of pizza, pretzels, and French fries filling the air. Arcades inside the malls were packed with kids playing Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and Galaga. You'd drop a quarter into a machine and wait your turn, cheering for your friends as they tried to break a high score. The mall was where you'd see and be seen. It was where you bought your first cassette, tried on outrageous outfits, and maybe even met your first crush. Movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Mallrats perfectly captured the vibe. Today, online shopping has replaced the mall experience. Many malls are closed or nearly empty. But in the 80s, the mall was the social hub where friendships were made and memories were created. When MTV launched in 1981, it completely changed the music world. Suddenly, you could watch your favorite artists 24/7. MTV didn't just play music, it defined fashion, slang, and youth culture. Artists like Michael Jackson, Madonna, Prince, and Duran Duran dominated the screen with groundbreaking music videos. Premieres of new videos felt like major events. Everyone would gather around the TV at the same time, waiting to see the newest release. MTV introduced fans to new artists and made music videos an art form. The phrase "I want my MTV" became part of everyday life. Today, we can stream videos instantly, but nothing compares to the excitement of flipping on MTV in the 80s and discovering something totally new. In the 80s, mixtapes were the ultimate form of self-expression. Cassette tapes were affordable, portable, and easy to swap with friends. You'd sit by the radio with your finger on the record button, waiting for your favorite song to play. When it finally came on, you'd record it, hoping the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro. Making a mixtape for someone you cared about was a big deal. Each song had meaning. The order mattered. It was like writing a love letter with music. Cassette players weren't perfect. Sometimes the tape would get stuck and you'd have to wind it back with a pencil. But that was part of the charm. Today's playlists are convenient, but they'll never have the same heart and effort as a homemade mixtape from the 80s. The 1980s gave us some of the greatest toys ever. Cabbage Patch Kids, Transformers, My Little Pony, Light Bright, and Rubik's Cubes filled bedrooms across the country. Shopping for toys was magical. Walking into Toys R Us felt like stepping into another world, with endless aisles of colorful boxes stacked to the ceiling. Around the holidays, kids would spend hours circling items in the Sears Christmas catalog, dreaming about what might be under the tree. Today, most toys are bought online, but nothing compares to the excitement of browsing a toy store in the 80s. Surrounded by other kids who were just as excited as you were. Before home consoles took over, arcades were the ultimate gaming experience. The sound of coins clinking, machines beeping, and kids cheering filled the air. Games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Street Fighter, and Galaga were everywhere. You'd stand in line to play, place your quarter on the machine to mark your turn, and battle friends face to face. Arcades weren't just about games, they were about community. You'd meet new friends, hang out for hours, and challenge yourself to beat the high score. Today, online gaming connects us digitally, but it can't recreate the social energy of arcades in the 80s. Family sitcoms were a cornerstone of 1980s television. Shows like The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Full House, and Cheers brought people together. Families would gather around the TV at the same time every week, sharing laughs and life lessons. There was no binge watching or fast forwarding. If you missed the episode, you had to wait for a rerun. That made each airing feel special. These shows weren't just entertainment, they were part of family bonding. Today, we can watch anything at any time, but the tradition of family TV nights is rare. In the 80s, those nights created lasting memories. Life in the 80s felt more connected. Kids rode bikes with their friends, played in the streets, and stayed outside until the streetlights came on. Adults spent time together at barbecues, block parties, and sporting events. There were fewer distractions, fewer screens, and more presence. You couldn't just text someone or scroll for hours on social media. You had to actually talk to people face to face. Technology today makes life easier, but the simplicity and real connection of the 80s is something we all miss. It was a time when you truly lived in the moment.